Have you ever wondered why some houses stay on the market for years, their prices dropping lower and lower until they're practically giving them away? Sometimes it's not about the property value or the neighborhood. Sometimes it's about what happened within those walls. And sometimes, if you listen closely enough, those walls whisper their secrets. The for sale sign swayed gently in the autumn breeze as Sarah Martinez waddled up the cobblestone pathway. At 7 months pregnant, every step was deliberate, one hand supporting her lower back while the other protectively cradled her swollen belly. The Victorian colonial loomed before her, its weathered red brick and white trim dignified against the October sky. Dead leaves skittered across the wraparound porch, dancing around her feet as she joined her husband Mike and their realtor Linda at the front door. "I still can't believe the asking price," Mike whispered, squeezing Sarah's hand as Linda fumbled with the lockbox. "A house like this, in this neighborhood." Sarah nodded, trying to ignore the flutter of unease in her stomach. The baby kicked, as if sharing her apprehension. They'd spent months house hunting in preparation for their daughter's arrival, but nothing had felt right, until now. This house, despite its age, had everything they'd dreamed of: 4 bedrooms, a spacious kitchen, a big backyard for future playdates, and most importantly, a price tag they could actually afford. Linda finally won her battle with the lockbox, her practiced smile not quite reaching her eyes. Now, as I mentioned, the house has been in the same family for quite some time. They're very motivated to sell, hence the competitive pricing. She pushed open the heavy oak door, which groaned on its hinges like something out of a horror movie. "Shall we?" The foyer opened up into a grand entryway, sunlight streaming through tall windows and casting delicate shadows across hardwood floors that had seen generations of footsteps. Sarah ran her hand along the wooden banister of the main staircase, admiring how the afternoon light played across its polished surface. The air smelled of old wood and something else, something sweet and powdery, like baby lotion. "The previous owners maintained it beautifully," Linda continued, leading them through to the kitchen. "Updated appliances, new wiring throughout, and the roof was replaced just 5 years ago." She rattled off features like a shopping list, moving quickly from room to room. Too quickly, Sarah thought. While Mike discussed property taxes and heating costs, Sarah found herself drawn to the second floor. Each step creaked softly under her weight as she ascended, trailing her hand along the banister. The upstairs hallway stretched before her, 4 doors leading to various bedrooms and baths. But it was the room at the end of the hall that called to her. The door was slightly ajar, pale yellow walls visible through the gap. Sarah pushed it open, and her breath caught in her throat. The room was perfect, absolutely perfect for a nursery. A large window with a built-in window seat overlooked the backyard's ancient oak trees, and the afternoon sun filled the space with warm, golden light. She could already imagine sitting there during late-night feedings, watching the sunrise with their baby girl. But something felt off. The air hung heavy, like the thickness before a storm. In the corner, a dark water stain marred the otherwise pristine ceiling, spreading like spilled ink across the white surface. "Oh, don't worry about that," Linda's voice came from the doorway, making Sarah jump. "Just an old leak that's been fixed. The home inspection confirmed it." Sarah nodded, but couldn't shake the feeling that the stain looked less like water damage and more like something else. Something that had seeped through from above. The attic access is in here, Linda continued, pointing to a small panel in the ceiling. Storage space is ample, though we don't need to. Can we see it? Sarah interrupted, surprising herself. The baby kicked again, harder this time. Linda's smile faltered. The ladder is quite steep. In your condition. I'll go, Mike said, appearing in the doorway. He pulled down the attic stairs, which descended with a loud creak. Coming? He asked Linda. The realtor hesitated. I'll wait here with Sarah. As Mike's footsteps echoed above them, Sarah wandered to the window seat. The cushion was worn but clean, its fabric faded from years of sunlight. She ran her fingers along the wooden frame, feeling subtle grooves in the paint. Looking closer, she realized they were initials, carved long ago. E.W. A sudden thud from the attic made both women start. Everything okay up there? Linda called, her voice pitched slightly higher than normal. Fine, Mike answered. Just knocked over an old, looks like a toy chest or something. Sarah settled onto the window seat, the baby suddenly active. She pressed a hand to her belly, feeling the strong kicks. She likes this room, she said softly. Linda's laugh was brittle. Children often do, though sometimes... She stopped abruptly. Sometimes what? Oh, nothing. Just... Houses this old, they have histories, you know. Families come and go, leaving their marks, their memories. Linda straightened her blazer. Shall we look at the master bedroom? But Sarah barely heard her. Her attention was caught by something in the corner, a shadow that seemed to move independently of the swaying tree branches outside. For just a moment, she could have sworn she saw. Ready to go, honey? Mike's voice broke through her thoughts. He stood in the doorway, dust smudged on his cheek. The attic's huge, perfect for storage. Sarah nodded, allowing him to help her up from the window seat. As they left the room, she glanced back one last time. The shadow in the corner was gone, but the dark stain on the ceiling seemed larger somehow, spreading like a cancer across the white surface. They made an offer that afternoon. Moving day arrived 3 weeks later, on an unseasonably cold November morning. Sarah stood in the driveway, directing movers while Mike assembled furniture upstairs. The baby had been restless all morning, performing what felt like gymnastics in her womb. That's the last of it, Mrs. Martinez, the head mover said, handing her the clipboard to sign. He wiped sweat from his brow despite the chilly air. Beautiful house you've got here. Real piece of history. Sarah smiled, signing the paperwork. Oh? Did you know the previous owners? The man's expression shifted slightly. No, ma'am, but everybody around here knows about... He stopped abruptly as his partner called from the truck. Well, good luck with everything. He hurried away, leaving Sarah standing alone with her half-formed question. Inside, cardboard boxes created a maze through the rooms. Sarah began unpacking the kitchen, finding comfort in the mundane task of organizing their lives into this new space. The afternoon light filled the room with a warm glow, and she could almost forget the strange tension that seemed to permeate the house's upper floor. Almost. Honey? Mike called from upstairs. Can you come look at something? Sarah found him in the nursery, surrounded by partially assembled furniture. The crib lay in pieces around him, instructions spread across the floor. But he wasn't looking at the assembly manual. His attention was fixed on the window seat. What's wrong? Look at this. He pointed to the carved initials she'd noticed during their first viewing. E.W. But there was something else now, something that hadn't been there before, Fresh scratches in the paint spelled out another set of letters, SM. Sarah's blood ran cold. Those were her initials, Sarah Martinez. "Did you do this?" Mike asked, running his fingers over the markings. "Of course not." The baby kicked hard, making her wince. "They look fresh." Maybe the mover's equipment scratched it. But they both knew none of the movers had been in this room. The nursery furniture was all still in boxes in the hallway. A sudden draft swept through the room, despite all windows being closed. The sweet, powdery smell Sarah had noticed during their first visit returned, stronger now, like baby lotion and something else, something metallic. "We should start unpacking," Sarah said quickly, not wanting to dwell on the strange markings or the unsettling smell. "My mum's coming tomorrow to help with the nursery." That night, they slept on their mattress on the floor, their bedroom furniture delayed until the next day. Sarah lay awake long after Mike's breathing had evened out into soft snores. The house creaked and settled around them, but some sounds seemed purposeful, like footsteps, light and quick, moving across the floor above them. The attic. She told herself it was just the wind or old pipes, or any of the 1,000 normal sounds an ancient house might make, but when a soft, melodic humming drifted down from the nursery, she couldn't rationalize it away. The tune was familiar, a lullaby her own mother used to sing. Sarah slipped out of bed, drawn toward the sound. The hallway was dark except for a thin sliver of moonlight spilling through the window at the end. The nursery door stood open, though she distinctly remembered closing it before bed. The humming grew louder as she approached. Her heart pounded, blood rushing in her ears. The baby moved restlessly, as if warning her to turn back. But she couldn't. She had to know. She reached the doorway and froze. Moonlight illuminated the window seat, casting long shadows across the floor. The room was empty, but the air felt thick, charged with an energy that made the hair on her arms stand up. The humming stopped abruptly. In the corner, beneath the dark ceiling stain, something moved. A shadow, darker than the darkness around it, seemed to coalesce into a shape. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as two pale points of light appeared within the mass, eyes watching her with ancient hunger. The shape began to move toward her, and Sarah stumbled backward. Her heel caught on nothing, and she would have fallen if a small end table hadn't been there to catch her. An end table she knew hadn't been there moments before. She fled back to bed, pulling the covers up like a child hiding from monsters. Mike stirred beside her. "Everything okay?" he mumbled sleepily. "Just bathroom," she lied, her heart still racing. "Go back to sleep." But sleep didn't come. She lay awake until dawn, listening to the sounds of small feet running across the attic floor and what might have been crying, or might have been laughter. The next morning, Sarah's mother arrived early, armed with paint samples and curtain swatches. If she noticed her daughter's exhaustion, she didn't mention it. "Oh, this room is perfect for a nursery," Elena Rodriguez exclaimed, walking into the yellow room. "Though we should definitely repaint. Yellow's so outdated." Sarah watched her mother move around the space, measuring windows and making notes. The room looked perfectly normal in the morning light. The corner where she'd seen the shadow was just a corner, the ceiling stain just a stain. "Mom," Sarah said carefully, "did you ever hear any stories about this house? The movers seem to know something about it." Eleanor paused in her measuring. "Well, I didn't want to say anything, but since you asked." She sat on the window seat, patting the space beside her. "There was an incident here, about 30 years ago. A young mother and her baby." Sarah's hand went instinctively to her belly. "What kind of incident?" "The mother, Caroline Weber, was found at the bottom of the attic stairs. They said she fell, but... Elena glanced at the attic access panel. The baby was never found. The room suddenly felt colder. What do you mean, never found? Little Emma Weber, just 6 months old. She vanished the same night her mother died. Some say Caroline's husband was involved, but nothing was ever proven. He moved away shortly after, and the house has passed through several owners since then. None stay very long. Elena touched the carved initials on the window seat. E.W., Emma Weber. Sarah's throat went dry. And S.M. But those letters were gone now, the wood smooth and unmarked, as if they'd never existed at all. Eleanor stood briskly. Let's look at these paint samples. I'm thinking a soft mint green would be lovely, much more modern than this yellow. As her mother held up colour swatches, Sarah's attention was drawn to the ceiling stain. In the morning light, it looked different, almost like a handprint, a very small handprint. Above them, something moved across the attic floor. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of unpacking and preparation. Sarah threw herself into decorating the nursery, as if cheerful decor could chase away the shadows that seemed to gather in the corners. She painted over the yellow walls with her mother's suggested mint green, though the colour looked sickly in certain lights. The ceiling stain refused to be covered, bleeding through each new coat of paint within days, always slightly larger, always resembling a small handprint. Mike worked late most nights, leaving Sarah alone with the house's peculiar sounds. The footsteps in the attic became more frequent, accompanied by the soft tinkling of what might have been a music box. Sometimes she heard giggling, like a child playing hide-and-seek. But it was the humming that bothered her most, that haunting lullaby that seemed to follow her from room to room. She didn't tell Mike about any of it. What could she say? That their dream house was haunted, that something unseen watched her from the shadows, that their unborn daughter grew more restless with each passing day, as if responding to things only she could sense. It was during one of Mike's late nights that Sarah finally snapped. The humming had grown louder, more insistent, seeming to come from directly above the nursery. Without letting herself think too hard about what she was doing, she pulled down the attic stairs. "Hello," she called up into the darkness. "Is someone there?" Silence answered, but the air grew heavy with anticipation. Sarah grabbed a flashlight from the hallway emergency kit and began to climb. The stairs creaked ominously under her weight, and she had to maneuver carefully around her pregnant belly. The attic was surprisingly large, stretching the full length of the house. Dust motes danced in her flashlight beam, and old trunks and boxes created twisted shadows along the walls. The air felt thick with age and secrets. Near the far wall, something caught her eye. An old toy chest, the same one Mike had mentioned during their first viewing. Its lid was carved with roses and angels, the wood dark with age. Sarah approached slowly, drawn by an inexplicable certainty that she needed to look inside. The lid was heavy, but it opened smoothly on well-oiled hinges. Inside she found exactly what she'd expected: toys. Ancient stuffed animals, wooden blocks, a silver rattle tarnished nearly black. Baby toys, all at least 30 years old. Emma's toys. But beneath them, wrapped in yellowed tissue paper, she found something else. A leather-bound book, its pages swollen with age and what looked like water damage. A diary. Sarah sat on an old trunk, her flashlight propped against a box, and began to read. March 15th, 1994. Emma laughed for the first time today. Real laughter, not just those sweet baby coos. She was watching something over my shoulder, something that made her eyes light up with such joy. But when I turned around, nothing was there. Just shadows in the corner of the nursery, though I could have sworn they moved. April 3rd, 1994. The humming started again last night. That same lullaby, the one my mother used to sing. I thought it was David at first, but he was fast asleep. Emma seems drawn to it. She reaches toward the ceiling, toward that strange dark spot that keeps coming back, no matter how many times we paint over it. April 20th, 1994. Something is wrong with this house. I find Emma's toys in different places than where I left them. Her mobile spins without any breeze. Last night I heard footsteps in the attic, but David says I'm being paranoid. He doesn't understand. Something wants our baby. May 12th, 1994. I saw it today, really saw it, standing over Emma's crib while she slept, tall and dark, with such long fingers reaching toward her. I screamed and it vanished, but Emma just laughed, reaching for where it had been. David thinks I need to see someone, says the stress of being a new mother is getting to me, but I know what I saw. May 25th, 1994. They're getting stronger, the shadows, moving even in daylight now. The humming is constant. Emma won't sleep in her crib anymore. She screams until I put her in the window seat. It's the only place she seems at peace. I've started sleeping in the nursery with her. David thinks I've lost my mind, but I have to protect her. The thing in the shadows. It's hungry. So hungry. The next entry was dated June 15th, 1994, the day before Caroline Weber died. The handwriting was frantic, barely legible. It's here. God help me, it's here. I can see it clearly now, the thing that's been watching us. It wears darkness like a cloak, but its eyes are ancient and empty and so hungry. It wants Emma, has always wanted Emma. The other mothers before me tried to stop it too, but it took their babies, all of them. I found the records hidden in the attic, every 30 years like clockwork. A mother dies, a baby vanishes. But it won't take my Emma. I won't let it. I know how to stop it now. The diary from 1964 explained everything. I have to. The entry ended abruptly, the pen trailing off into a jagged line. The remaining pages were blank, except for the last one. There, in different handwriting, Sarah found a single sentence that made her blood run cold. The hungry ones must feed. A floorboard creaked behind her. Sarah spun around, the diary falling from her trembling hands. Her flashlight beam cut through the dusty air, illuminating the attic's far corner. Something moved in the darkness, something tall and thin, with impossibly long fingers and eyes like pale stars. The humming began again, soft and sweet. A lullaby meant to soothe. Sarah scrambled backward, nearly falling down the attic stairs in her haste to escape. She slammed the access panel shut behind her, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. In her womb, the baby went very, very still. Sarah spent the next day at the local library, diving deep into microfiche archives while trying to ignore the constant movement of shadows in her peripheral vision. Her hands trembled as she scrolled through decades of local newspapers, finding exactly what she feared, a pattern spanning nearly a century. 1934. Margaret Collins found dead at the bottom of her attic stairs. Her 3-month-old son, Thomas, vanished without a trace. 1964. Catherine Brown discovered in the same spot, her neck broken. Her daughter Lucy, 8 months old, was never found. 1994. Caroline Weber's death ruled an accident. Baby Emma disappeared. And now, 30 years later, Sarah sat in their cursed house, her own daughter growing within her. The baby hadn't moved since the attic encounter, and even the doctor's reassurances about her strong heartbeat didn't ease Sarah's terror. That evening she confronted Mike with her discoveries. "Look at these," she said, spreading newspaper clippings across their kitchen table. "Every 30 years, Mike. The same house, the same pattern. A mother dies, a baby vanishes, and no one ever connects the dots." Mike rubbed his temples. "Sarah, honey, I know the hormones." "Don't." Her voice was sharp. "Don't you dare blame this on hormones. I found Caroline's diary. She saw it too, the thing in the shadows, the thing that's been watching me, watching our baby. There's nothing." A crash from upstairs cut him off. They both looked up at the ceiling, where slow footsteps crossed the nursery floor. "Tell me you don't hear that," Sarah whispered. Mike's face had gone pale. "It's just the house settling." Another crash, louder this time. Then drifting down the stairs came the sound of a music box playing a familiar lullaby. "We have to leave," Sarah said, grabbing Mike's arm. "Now, before Dash." The lights went out, plunging the house into darkness. Outside, the street lights still blazed, making their home's blackness seem deeper, more deliberate. The temperature dropped rapidly, their breath visible in the sudden cold. "Mike," Sarah's voice quavered. "Just a power outage," he said, but his voice shook. "I'll get the flashlights." He moved toward the kitchen drawer, but before he could reach it, a child's laugh echoed through the house. Not the sweet giggle of a happy baby, but something wrong, something that knew it shouldn't exist. The lullaby grew louder, seeming to come from everywhere at once. Sarah felt something brush past her in the darkness, something cold and hungry. The baby stirred for the first time in days, kicking frantically. "We need to get out," she repeated, grabbing Mike's hand. But as they turned toward the front door, a figure appeared at the top of the stairs. It was a child, no more than 6 or 7, with long dark hair and a white nightgown. She might have been beautiful if not for the wrongness of her, the way her movements were too fluid, the way her feet didn't quite touch the steps as she descended. "Emma?" Sarah breathed. The girl's head snapped toward them at an impossible angle. When she smiled, her teeth were sharp and numerous. "Emma is gone," she said in a voice like breaking glass. "They're all gone. But you'll join them soon, you and your little one." The shadow creature Sarah had seen in the attic materialized behind the girl, its long fingers wrapping around her shoulders possessively. In the darkness, Sarah could finally see it clearly. A thing of smoke and hunger, ancient and patient, wearing shadows like a cloak, its pale eyes fixed on Sarah's swollen belly with terrible intent. "Every 30 years," it whispered, its voice like rustling leaves and dying breaths. "The hungry ones must feed. Your child will be strong, so strong. A feast to last us decades." Mike pushed Sarah behind him. "You can't have them." The thing that wasn't, Emma laughed. "Brave father. Caroline's David said the same thing before we showed him the truth. Would you like to see? Would you like to know what really happened that night?" The shadows around them deepened, swirled, became images, memories. Caroline Weber backing up the attic stairs, clutching baby Emma to her chest. The shadow creature advancing, its fingers reaching. Emma crying. Caroline's desperate attempt to save her child, to complete the ritual she'd discovered in the 1964 diary. The flash of metal. A knife. A fall. Blood seeping across floorboards, dripping through the ceiling into the nursery below. "She thought she could stop us," the shadow creature hissed. "They all did. But the hungry ones have fed here for centuries, long before this house existed. The land remembers. The land hungers." The temperature dropped further. Ice crystals formed on the windows, spreading like skeletal fingers across the glass. The baby kicked again, frantically, as if trying to escape. Sarah's water broke. The thing that wasn't Emma clapped its hands in delight. Perfect. A fresh feast, straight from the womb, so much stronger that way, so much sweeter. Pain ripped through Sarah's abdomen, her first contraction. This couldn't be happening. Not now. Not here. Mike tried to pull her toward the door, but the shadow creature raised one impossibly long hand. Every exit slammed shut, locks engaging with heavy clicks. The cycle continues, it whispered. The hungry ones must feed. Another contraction doubled Sarah over, more intense than the first. Through the haze of pain, her mind raced. Caroline's diary, the ritual. There had to be something they'd missed. "Get her to the nursery," the shadow creature commanded, "where all the others came before, where the hungry ones first tasted sweet innocence." The thing that wasn't Emma flowed up the stairs like water running backward, beckoning them to follow. Invisible forces pushed Sarah and Mike forward, up the creaking steps, toward the room that had haunted Sarah's dreams for weeks. The nursery door swung open on its own. The mint-green walls now looked ash-grey in the darkness, and the ceiling stain had spread to cover nearly half the room. It pulsed like a living thing, dripping shadows that pooled on the floor. "Mike!" Sarah gasped between contractions. "The diary! In the attic! Caroline found a way—" "Silence!" the shadow creature roared, its form expanding to fill the doorway. "No more talks of diaries and rituals. The time has come." But Mike understood. He broke free from the invisible restraints and lunged for the attic access panel. The thing that wasn't, Emma shrieked, launching herself at him with claws extended. They crashed into the half-assembled crib, sending parts scattering across the floor. Sarah stumbled to the window seat, Emma's seat, Caroline's seat, the one place in the room that had always felt different. Her fingers found the carved initials, EW. More letters had appeared beneath them, a whole list now visible in the darkness. TC 1934, LB 1964, EW 1994, all the lost children, all the taken ones. Another contraction ripped through her, and Sarah screamed. The shadow creature turned toward her, hunger radiating from its ancient eyes. Behind it, Mike had managed to pull down the attic stairs, despite the not Emma clawing at his back. "The hungry ones have waited so long," the creature crooned, gliding toward Sarah. "Your daughter will sustain us for decades. Her innocence, her potential, such a feast." Sarah's hand found a loose piece of wood on the window seat, a small section that shifted under her fingers. Inside was a cavity, and in that cavity, paper. Caroline's final pages, hidden where she knew another mother might find them. The shadow creature reached for Sarah's belly with its impossibly long fingers. The baby kicked once, hard, then went terrifyingly still. Sarah pulled out the hidden pages and began to read aloud. "Blood freely given marks the ground. Love freely offered breaks the chain. A mother's sacrifice ends the hunger." "Stop!" The shadow creature lunged, but Sarah rolled away, continuing to read. "In perfect love and perfect trust, I break this cycle, end this feast, by my blood and my child's light." The thing that wasn't. Emma screamed, the sound shattering the nursery windows. Wind whipped through the room, scattering the papers, but Sarah knew the rest by heart. Somehow, she'd always known. Sarah's voice cracked as she read the final words of Caroline's hidden ritual. "I cast you out. By all the mothers before me, by all the children taken, by my daughter's innocent soul, I banish you." Her blood dripped onto the window seat, making the carved initials glow with a pale blue light. The shadow creature writhed, its form distorting as the thing that wasn't Emma screamed, a sound like breaking glass and dying hopes. "You think you're the first?" The shadow creature's voice slithered through the darkness. Who was the first to find Caroline's little diary? The first to think love could save them. The light from the initials flickered, weakening. Sarah's hand pressed against her belly as another contraction tore through her. Something was wrong. The baby wasn't moving. Ask Caroline how well her ritual worked, the creature continued, its form expanding rather than dissolving. Ask her what happened when she tried to save sweet Emma. The shadows swirled, forming images once again. But this time, Sarah saw the true ending of that night 30 years ago. Caroline, desperate and bleeding, completing the same ritual, the same light, the same hope, and then the darkness consuming it all. Emma's final cry, Caroline's body tumbling down the attic stairs, not pushed, but jumping in one last attempt to save her child. The shadow creature laughed, the sound like crumbling gravestones. The hungry ones have fed here longer than you can imagine, before the house, before the town, before your kind learned to build with stone and wood. This land remembers. This land hungers. The light from the carved initials went out. Sarah felt something tear inside her, a pain deeper than childbirth. The baby. Oh God, the baby. "Mike!" she gasped. But Mike lay crumpled in the corner where the thing that wasn't Emma had thrown him, blood trickling from his temple. The shadow creature's fingers elongated, reaching for Sarah's swollen belly. Where they touched her skin, frost formed, spreading like spider webs across her flesh. The baby kicked once, weakly, then went still. "The ritual doesn't break the cycle," the creature whispered, its pale eyes gleaming with ancient malice. "It completes it. The offering must be willing. The sacrifice must be pure. Your love, your blood, your desperate hope. They make the feast so much sweeter." Sarah tried to crawl away, but her body wouldn't respond. The cold spread deeper, reaching for her child. In the window seat, new letters began to carve themselves beneath the others. ECM 2024. "Welcome to the family," the thing that wasn't Emma said, reaching for Sarah with tiny, sharp-toothed smile. "The hungry ones have set you a place at the table." The darkness descended, absolute and consuming. Sarah heard herself scream, felt the final contraction begin. As consciousness faded, she heard a baby's cry. But it wasn't the healthy wail of new life. It was the sound of something being born into hunger, into shadow, into endless night. 3 days later, the police found Mike Martinez's body in the nursery. The official report cited an accidental fall, just like Caroline Weber 30 years before. Sarah Martinez and her unborn daughter were never found. The house stands empty now, its price dropping lower every month. Sometimes, late at night, passers-by hear a lullaby drifting from the nursery window. Sometimes they see a woman in the window seat, cradling something in her arms. And sometimes, if they look very carefully, they might notice new shadows moving behind the glass. A mother and child, forever together, forever hungry. The carved initials on the window seat continue to grow, marking time in 30-year cycles. The hungry ones must feed. They have always fed. They will always feed. And somewhere in the darkness between worlds, in the space between heartbeats and hopes, Sarah rocks her daughter to sleep with the same lullaby that has echoed through that house for centuries. Her fingers are very long now, and her eyes shine with a pale, hungry light. If this story kept you up at night, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to Unholy Tales. Want to know what really happened to the other families? Or what dark force truly lives in the land beneath the house? Let us know in the comments below. Join our notification squad by hitting that bell icon. You never know when another terrifying tale will creep into your feed. Some stories end in darkness, because that's where they were always meant to live. This is Unholy Tales, reminding you that not all houses are meant to be homes, and not all mothers get to save their children. Sleep tight, if you still can.